I'm going to sit here, put this down, make sure that everything's working this time instead of like last time where it didn't stream what I freaking wanted it to stream. Not bitter though, not bitter. Let's see if this thing is going to actually listen and play exactly what I needed to play so I can understand. It says that I'm live. It's been 18 seconds. We're going to sit here and listen to the top of the stream. It should be showing up right about now. No? Oh, I think I got 18 seconds. Okay, it's actually showing up now. Okay, so I have a few topics that's going to be in the streaming bar for Friday, May 6, 2016. Some things that I got to get off my chest, particularly it's going to be SJWism, identity politics. That seems to be a really big topic on the left because we keep getting smeared with it. Particularly if you look around some of the places that people hang out in, such as Kotaku in Action, it went from talking about actual journalism, ethics, things like that, talking about things that we actually need to sit here and cover in terms of how journalism is basically corporate media and corporate bullshit, and it's basically devolved into nothing more than absolute bullshit. And what I mean is, it's talking about SJWs. It's become Tumblr in action instead of being its own sub. And it's not really sitting here and serving anybody's interest except to sit here and complain about SJWs all day, every day. And if you can sit here and show black people as being SJWs, go ahead and do that, because that's exactly what's going to be the problem. Oh, there was somebody that was crazy on campus. That's going to be an SJW. Oh, there was something that you really needed to sit here and get off your chest because it's been building up for 40, 50 years. No, you're an SJW. You have lost every right and every privilege that you could ever think of because you're an SJW. Never mind that social justice warriors are not really clearly defined, and never mind all the things that are going on. No, no, no. If you actually have something to sit here and say, and if you have a grievance of any problem or anything that's going on, you're going to sit here and be considered an SJW. That's exactly what's happening. If anyone is interested. Good gracious, I swear, you can't win for losing. These people sit here and the only thing that they talk about is being an SJW all day, every day. That's exactly what the problem is. You are an SJW if you're black. You're an SJW if you're a minority. You sit here and you talk about privilege or anything else, and people really, really, really just think that this is the problem. That if you fight and battle SJWism, you are bound to sit here and find some new nirvana. That's exactly what this thing is about. Got some things to talk about. Alright, but this is one of the things that I have to rant about and basically try to get off my chest so it actually makes some damn sense. It is absolutely positively amazing that people are sitting here and bitching about social justice warriors all day, every day. That's kind of why I sit here and have on the top right, big red goes on, because that's all people have done. They haven't gotten to the root problems and the root causes. No one is actually looking into feminism or any of those types of critiques. Instead, they want to sit here and blame every last form of feminism out there, conflate them all together, and then just think, well, this is what's going on. Because this form of feminism has basically taken over. There are no other forms of feminism anywhere, at any time. So, it's one of those things. Howdy, horse. See you in the comments there. So, let me sit here and let me try to think about it. Now, not only is identity politics something that's on the liberal side of things, particularly in the upper class liberal perspective, but you also have right-wing SJWism, which takes on a different form of type of shaming, things like that. If you've been paying attention to Israel in any way, shape, or form, you know that they're scared to death of the BDS movement, and they're using identity politics to kind of try to fight people as saying that they're anti-Semitic for trying to basically have this divestment movement of things that are going on. Now, Israel has basically gone full fascist. They don't really have any support with the Palestinians. And the thing that they've done in the last 2 or 3 days, if I remember correctly, they've been dropping bombs on Gaza at night. So all of the people that are decimated and destroyed, they're basically sitting here and just killing more people with missiles that they plan to sit here and ship to Saudi Arabia, so Saudi Arabia can go and dump it on Yemen. They can go dump it all the other places. These are the types of things that people are basically kind of concerned about. That plus all the money invested into war efforts, those are the types of things that make there a such thing as a right-wing SJW. The neocons are an example of right-wing SJWism, social justice warriorism, or whatever you want to call it. Basically, they use identity politics. They're sitting here and saying that their identity as being Zionist is being conflated with Jewish. And if you're saying that that you are a anti-Zionist, you're also anti-Jewish, even though people have a problem with the Zionist movement of the Israelis, which is basically decimating any form of rights, human rights, that the Palestinians have in the Middle East. Now, to be clear, Bernie Sanders has had a lot of problems with this, and he's had to sit here and face the Zionist question. He sits here and says that Israel has the right to exist, but he also has a lot of problems with sitting here and supporting Israel wholeheartedly, even though he's had to sit here and change that position considerably, because not only has he had Muslim people that are supporting him over the hawkish Hillary Clinton, and even more hawkish, Donald Trump. The fact of the matter is, with everything that's going on, Bernie Sanders has had to rethink his position, particularly when it comes to ideological beliefs on Israel, because Palestine has the right to exist. And a lot of people would be upset with him, particularly the Black Lives Matter movement, which would basically sit here and rake him over the coals. Because the fact of the matter is, with the Black Lives Matter movement, they've been crossing strides with the Palestinians and going into Gaza, going into the Gaza Strip, going into all of the places that the Israelis are occupying, and basically bringing all that together. So I didn't really want to talk a lot about Israel, but that is a form of identity politics when you get into the anti-Semitism that they're basically sitting here and looking into. So identity politics is just, in terms of a historical speaking, in terms of a historical way to look at it, when you have the whiteness that came around and came about in the 1800s, the fact of the matter is, in that time frame of the 1800s, or not even then, the 1700s as well, as more immigrants, white immigrants, were coming over, not necessarily on the Mayflower, but you have a lot of problems with the UK or Britain, as well as Ireland and Scotland, which they were decimating and said, we're going to ship you all up and ship you all out. So what would happen is, as they're being shipped out, the Irish and the Scottish were basically doing a lot of things, historically speaking, that made them go against the minorities here in America. Let's see. Basically, so what would happen with that is they would sit here and come over to America, and eventually that brings them to the fact that they would, how did that get worded? They would sit here and they would become a part of the ruling class, at least as foot soldiers in the military, and sit here and suppress Native Americans and black people to kind of sit here and keep them against all the working class slaves that were basically part of their allies here in America. That's more or less a historical example. If you want to read more, I'd sit here and suggest Gerald Horne, because he actually has a lot to talk about in terms of identity politics, particularly in the 1700s, 1800s, as he's going through and looking at the counter-revolution of 1776, which is a great book. I recommend it to anybody that's listening, especially you, comrade. So, if you're listening, let's read that book, Counter-Revolution of 1776. So, if I have any questions, feel free to just stop me anytime you want. But I'm going to go on to bitching about Kotaku in action and how it's become a lot more reactionary. Now, to be honest, I followed Kotaku in action for a long time. Not necessarily since the beginning of Gamergate, but pretty close to. What would happen is, in terms of Gamergate, it has gone from, say, having a lot of left-wing thoughts and theories to having a lot more reactionaries come into the movement and bring this culture war that they're fighting. The reason that I'm sitting here and talking about this culture war is because it's not getting to the core root of the problem. We have a corporate media. That corporate media responds only to corporate interests. It does not respond to the gamers. It does not respond to the people that really need a new type of journalism. It does not respond to the fact that developers are being ham-fisted into crazy cockamamie schemes, or they have to do a lot of things for money that is going to publishers and hedge funds over the independent developers and the gaming public as it stands. So Kotaku in action has kind of railroaded themselves, and this is something that has made the type of things that they cover really, really right-wing. It's like you can talk about politics, but you have to talk about them in this one biased way, where it's always about social justice warriorism, and you can't talk about politics in any way, shape, or form unless it's about the things that we like and we care for, which is the mod team versus what the public wants. So you can't talk about Bernie Sanders, even though he's getting screwed by the media, but you can talk about Donald Trump because his political correctness and his PC outrage tactics are a lot more amenable to the right reactionaries, who seem to have a lot more control than they really should have. So for the most part, when people are talking about, say, reactionary nonsense, I mean, who actually thinks that this entire thing is a culture war? What's happening here is the same thing that sat here and developed a Donald Trump. The environment is really good for an authoritarian strongman to come in, and basically come in and sit here and give people a lot of basically problems, I guess. I'm not sure if it's necessarily problems, but they can sit here and give a lot more push to these right-wing reactionary ideas. Now, one of the big ones that recently came up that comes to me is Cologne, Germany. What happened in Cologne, Germany is a lot of accusations of rape were going on. The media didn't cover it for 4 days. They didn't cover all of it. They didn't cover it like the reactionaries wanted to do. I mean, if you look into Cologne, Germany, one of the big things that happened, like a year before, you had a Nazi trying to murder the mayor. So they've been having problems for a long time. But on this night, they got to sit here and show a lot of xenophobia. And if you look into it, a lot of the immigrants or refugees that have been going in there, they were sitting here protecting women. They've been sitting here trying to do things that they could, the best they could, with what they had. They've been trying to do, I mean, some of them, I think when I looked at it, it's like hooliganism was high. There were people that were all over the place in terms of, some of them were North Africans. All of the refugees got blamed. A lot of scapegoating went on. A lot of xenophobia. Those were the types of things that happened. I mean, it's a hodgepodge, it's a mess, but what happened is all of it got pushed into Kotaku in action. It's really not supposed to be there, but a lot of people have basically pushed that in. So, to me, what that kind of shows is who controls the subreddit at this current point in time. And right now, the main ones that control it would be a lot of reactionary right-wingers over anybody that would have any form of left-wing ideals, goals, and things like that. So it's basically devolved. You barely get a lot of news about video games in a video game subreddit. You barely get to talk about the things that need to be talked about. And it just has become a hot mess because nobody really wants to sit here and create new avenues that sit here and push these kind of culture war things into the background so more things can come in about video games, those types of aspects. And it used to be a really good sub, but it's like a lot of people have taken this idea of, well, okay, I'm going to bring in my MRAs, and if you're a feminist, I'm going to sit here and accuse you of being a feminist. I'm going to accuse you of being an SJW even though you're not one. It has just become a place only for the reactionary right wing versus an actual understanding of the left wing ideals. But now, one of the things that they normally put up, and if I can find it, I'm going to sit here and show you like the graph. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Find an image. Boink, boink, boink. Let me see if I can find this image real quick about what they say is, well, it's made up of cultural libertarians by looking into a political contest or political compass test, and then taking that political compass test and taking it wildly out of context. Now, I took this political compass contest, and I was one of the first 360 people to sit here and basically do this thing. So imagine my surprise when people sit here and just take the damn thing on faith. It is just absolutely amazing what these people actually do, and it just makes you kind of sit here and scratch your head. How the hell do these people sit here and take these beliefs and can take them so wildly out of context? It's just listen and believe. But I'm trying to find it so you can at least have a notion of what I've had to sit here and deal with as being a part of political. Here we go. This is my viewpoint. On the top left, you can actually see it. I tend to be a left libertarian. Now, it's not necessarily that really does anything, or, I mean, you can sit here and basically be a left libertarian for any reason you want. But the fact of the matter is, these people put in being a left libertarian is a lot about the cultural libertarians on one side versus the right-wing authoritarians on the other, with all of this being centered around the same conservative liberal bias that people already had before, brought that into the conversation and don't recognize that it's not about libertarianism versus authoritarianism at all. This is just a contest to sit here and show that not a lot of people were reactionary right-wingers. There weren't a lot of right-wingers, but nowadays, if you look at the damn test, it's really, really, really easy to sit here and say that the reactionary right wing is not necessarily the ones. Like, not a lot of people are as left leaning as they used to be, or they know how to sit here and fake the test for whatever reason. And so you don't get those types of ebbs and flows of left wingers, right wingers, or anything like that. I mean, here's another one. Now, compared what I had before to what this is. This is about left-leaning. Let me see if I can make this thing fit the screen. There we go. So this is basically one of the first tests of Gamergate political compass. So some people can sit here and recognize the fact that there weren't a lot of authoritarian people in the movement in the beginning. I mean, people that considered themselves liberal, they were sit here and pushed out by the corporate media, the gaming media, because they didn't have a place to go. So what does that do for them? That sits here and says to them that basically their opinions do not matter. They're pissed off, they're going to revolt. And that's exactly what Gamergate was about. It was a revolt against the people that had taken the power for themselves in the gaming community. Now, this is just a small revolt. It's similar to, say, Occupy or anything else. People didn't think it was going to work. People don't think about it now. But as time has moved on, a lot more people have changed their positions. I mean, nowadays, I know that there are more upgraded tests, but the fact of the matter is, those upgraded tests don't necessarily reflect what people are seeing right now in terms of, what is going on. And using a political test from like a year or so ago, and using that to sit here and say that people are still cultural libertarians and or something, whatever. I mean, seriously, what does it mean when you're a libertarian? It doesn't really mean anything. Not for you, not for me. It really doesn't mean what it says it means. It's just a test to sit here and say, well, we're not right-wing reactionaries. And you're going to get different people that may take the test at different times to give you different answers. It really just depends. That's exactly what it really means. So let me go ahead and let me move on with the last topic that I want to sit here and talk about tonight. Left-wing YouTube stuff. Now, I think that unfortunately right now there is a dearth of right-wing reactionary viewpoints. You can sit here and look at a Stefan Molyneux. You can sit here and look at a Sargon. You can sit here and look at least partially Jason Unruhi, in my view, because I don't know, Maoism is autism, but you don't really get those types of actual debates and knowledge of what is going on in different types of movements for any type of reason. So one thing that I'm proposing, people should start looking into how can we build a left-wing alternative of YouTube discussion, discourse. I know Bunker Chan is doing a lot of things. One idea that I had is basically try to set up sponsorships with, say, left-wing bookstores, left-wing idea think tanks of any sort. One of them may be Monthly Review. Those are types of things that I would sit here and think that they want to look into. Maybe perhaps we can sit here and possibly get a discount on books if we sit here and review it in a month. So look into some older books, sit here, do discussion and discourse. One of the other things that I'm looking into is possibly the free boards. Look into what they're doing. Sit here and talk about the books that they're looking into. Sit here and get some of their older books and look into those as well. Of course, this is all down the line, but these are types of things that we can sit here and begin to maybe set up a left-wing philosophers union or something like that, philosophers co-op, and basically make these types of things a reality. Now, these are just some ideas that I'm throwing out there and spitballing. I'm going to sit here and try to have a more complete thought in some other day, some other time. But the fact of the matter is, I do think that there is a place for socialism, communism, anarchism, all those types of things. So that way, a lot more people can sit here and learn what's going on, sit here and organize, sit here and agitate for a much better type of change, and then maybe we can sit here and advocate on the local level after what we've learned here on the digital level. So doesn't look like there's a lot of people here, but the fact of the matter is, I just wanted to get these things out because I really do think that they're important. These are the types of things that need to be discussed. These are the types of things that we need to organize and figure out what we want to do with them. And I do want these ideas to sit here and strengthen what we have to say in the future. So other than that, it's going to be 25 minutes, but kind of want to keep it a little bit shorter tonight because I'm sorry, it's late. I've been on my feet all day. I'm a little bit tired, and I'm going to sit here and try to make it so that on other days I'm actually going to be here on time. I apologize for not being here at exactly 11 o'clock. Had a few things that I had to do, finish up, and then I just missed it by 15 minutes. I apologize. So next week I'll be back to the 11 o'clock schedule full time. I'll at least be on for 30 minutes to an hour. Make sure that I'm sitting here and answering you all's calls and things like that, and doing the things that basically make this thing a lot better, and sit here and have at least one or two topics so you all have something to look at in the future. So take care. See you next time.